I think it's very important for Romania to identify its most talented youth and channel them with motivation and excitement to contribute to the well-being of Romania and then, of course, for the rest of the world. Thank you. And I've been looking at the material here, and it looks as if you've identified central factors of importance. What my colleagues and I are interested in is what's malleable and what we can improve. So of course, we want to establish that there are individual differences, and you've identified people who are clearly very talented. What can we do to embellish their talents, to help them find passion, to sustain their talents? Because one of the things that we find is that you may be rewarded for being creative when you're young, but then if you're creative and you start contradicting the established truth, it's very difficult. And so we're very interested in how to fortify people's motivation even when they're under a lot of criticism for being creative. So yesterday we were talking about mentoring, and mentors can play a very important role in supporting young people. And the mentoring we talked about starts from potential, but you have already identified potential. They've already are expert, and what you're hoping to do is for this expertise to lead to creative productivity. Well, there are different levels of mentoring, and so if you want to start with all children, it's a different process than a mentorship for people who've already gone through the whole process of talent development. So if you want to begin talent development, you have to excite people about topics and areas of interest. So the first type of mentoring can actually be done by a family, it could be done by a community, it can be done with whatever is available in the community. And then if someone gets excited, you say, okay, we're going to start with that child. There may be other children who are not interested in that, but there's something else. So finding children's excitement and making it fun, but after a while that's not enough. So then you need the next level of mentor, and the next level of mentor teaches them the skills, the content knowledge, and the values that are associated. If you're going to be a great mathematician, or you're going to be a sports person, or you're going to be a musician, there's certain values in that area of what's beautiful, what's important. So a mentor would help teach those things and show that he or she cares about the person. And then the child has to be committed and say, yes, okay, I want that. I want to learn the values and skills, and I want to be part of this community of mathematicians or sports people or musicians. Then the next type of mentor is someone who helps you find your niche. So how am I personally going to contribute? What am I going to do? And that's really hard. So, and that doesn't happen. I mean, not everyone is destined to do that or wants to do that. Some people can contribute a lot by being a good person, a parent, a community leader. But there are some young people, and they don't have to be typically identified gifted, can contribute wonderful things, but it requires commitment. They have to give up a lot, and a mentor is very important to support that. So, and this is not an original idea. This was developed in a book in the 1980s by Benjamin Bloom called Developing Talent in Young People. So he talked about the 3 stages of mentor. And then we developed it a little bit more to to talk about also the different types of mentorship. So there's informal, then there's a matchmaking where you take somebody who's has the knowledge the child wants and the child, and you get them together. And then the highest level is when a mentor picks you. So for example, you could have your group that you've identified write a resume and show it to different mentors, and the mentors could then say, I'd like to meet this person, I'd like to meet this person. I just heard that when they do the Rhodes Scholarship, I don't know if you know what that is. It's the English Empire, during the English Empire, the Cecil Rhodes started a foundation to support people who would contribute in the same way that you are. And so now they have people from the Commonwealth, the former British Commonwealth, and they include the US. They invite people to go through a whole process like you did, but then they invite them to social events, and they see how they respond to social events. And then the mentors pick somebody. I want to work with this young person. I want to work with that young person, etc. So that's how the mentorship works. The other thing I think you could do that I talked about was insider knowledge. There are all kinds of things that are not taught to people explicitly, but implicitly make a difference on whether you are accepted someplace or your life is easier. Mentors can share that information. So, for example, a woman named Isabella Wagner from Poland had a son who was he competed in violin concertos. And she noticed that if somebody chose a piece to play on the violin that was something that one of the judges was famous for, they never won. So she started telling all the parents, don't let your child play anything. Find out who the judges are and decide what they're going to play that way. That's insider knowledge, right? Nobody's supposed to know that, but that was really important. And every field, when I started teaching as a school teacher, experienced teacher came to me and she said, I want you to know who the two most important people in the school are. So I said, who are they? She said, the school secretary and the janitor, the custodian. She said, if you are not nice to those people, your life will be miserable, right? They never teach you that in the teacher training program. That's insider knowledge. And that's what mentors can do for young people, so they don't make mistakes that waste time. So those are two things, the mentorship, not only doing the usual mentor thing, but also insider knowledge.